Well, as you know, I'm very interested in NVC, nonviolent communication, Marshall Rosenberg, and I constantly get out the library, Nonviolent Communication, Marshall Rosenberg, that's the book. And it focuses very much on understanding other people. Not just reacting to them, but what's this person feeling? Are they feeling distressed? Are they feeling happy? Are they defensive? What are the clues? Ask them, of course. How are you feeling today? Oh, a bit flat. Oh, you know? Why is that? What need do you feel is not being met? Or, you're very happy. Oh, what need is being met? Ah, you've been with your family this afternoon. Yes. Oh, that's good. Do you see, we come to know the other person when we get some insight into how they are feeling, what's important to them at the minute. And I don't mean really their ideas, but more, what's their current emotion? Is it contentment? Is it defensiveness? Is it accusatory? Why would they be accusing me at the minute? What are they feeling that they need to be putting right that's causing them to strike out in this way? Can I be sensitive to that need? And do I know what they want to try and put that right? I mean, is it just my subservience or something, Okay, well, that's because they're not happy in some way. They want security. What insecurities are bothering them? Is it that we are not giving them what they think they should have and need? This doesn't mean you're going to do it, because it may be totally unreasonable. Your individual lives, you had needs as well, and perhaps they're in conflict. Right, is there a way of meeting the need they have and your own? Or what is the best strategy given conflicting needs, like zero-sum needs? If you have it, I don't. And some needs are like that, aren't you? I mean, you both love the same person. You can't both be married to her. One's got to decline at least. You don't want it to be you. Perhaps because you don't understand your competitor. But when you know how he feels and why, what his story is, as Mark Twain would say, then he's less of a competitor and more of someone you empathize with. Someone whose self is sort of becoming embraced in your view of self as well. He matters to you. And if you both matter to each other, if you can engineer that situation, I mean validly, that his self is expanded to include yourself for concern, and your self expands to include his self. And you get this with mates. We both love the same girl, and because I'm friends with my mate, well, perhaps I'll let him go for her, not me. I'll find someone else. Do you see? It's a good outcome. You may say, well, perhaps you didn't find someone else. And that's true. So you're encouraged to find God instead. Who won in the end? Oh, goodness. I don't know about who won, but you got the greater blessing. Oh. Well, this seems a long way from NVC, of course, but non-violent communication. We try to find a way of relating, of communicating, that is non-violent. In fact, we need something positive, don't we? Not just not negative, not violent, but peace-orientated. Peaceful communication, life-giving communication. I think Marshall Rosenberg deals with that consideration too, that it's meant to be life-giving. Yeah. In Christian terms, then, that we enter into life. And there are guidelines, and NVC seems to sum them up. So, first of all, become aware of how they're feeling. And they're feeling this way because of what needs, being met or not being met. Ah. And what are they asking for, therefore? In consequence. Are you willing to meet that? Or can you meet that in some way? Oh, in some ways. But not in others. No, that's right. Why? Because I have feelings and needs too. Ah. Do they appreciate that at the minute? No more than I was appreciating their feelings and needs. How can you encourage them to embrace your needs as well as their own? By them understanding my feelings and needs? That's it, isn't it? Will they be willing to listen? Yes, if they know their needs and feelings are appreciated by you. Ah. So it's a two-way process, and you may, in order to launch it, have to start by very much being in attendance of their feelings and needs first. And then before we go on to strategies as to how to meet these feelings and needs, we should communicate what our feelings and needs are too, and check they are communicated. And then we have the correct playing field on which to solve the situation, to come to a harmonious, peaceful, life-giving outcome of all needs being met in the understanding and in the inclusiveness of both egos embracing each other. Now that's the sort of perfect, the extreme. But you can go a long way towards it on any specific issue, typically. And then the greater pattern of such, that's what community is about. Non-violent interactions between the members, or rather life-giving communication and fellowship between members. Or not so much between, but for all the members. Thank you, Dad. Let me example. You say to someone, hello, how are you? Oh, good. And you? Yeah, good. And you say something like, nice day, isn't it? And you get a negative response. They come back, instead of saying, yes, lovely to have, they come back and say, we really need rain. So, we've got a discontentment. Now, what's the source of this discontentment? Is it that they just don't want to communicate with you? They're trying to shut you up. They're contradicting you. Is it because they feel down and depressed? That something outside is not bringing something that they seem to need within themselves? So they say, what you're thinking of? Well, probably what you mean is, why are you wanting rain? The garden needs so, doesn't it? And you think to yourself, well, why would that be important to them? You got vegetables growing? No, flowers. Yes, well, I mean, I water the garden, don't like keep watering it. I see. Right, now we're perceiving some sort of need, that the garden is a burden to them if it doesn't rain, because they have to spend their time watering. They don't want to. Now, is this the real need? And you may reflect at this point, are they always negative when you talk to them? That they tend to disagree with anything you say. And you need to listen to why they're disagreeing. And each individual issue may be instructive in itself, but the whole pattern of needs that you can find out they have may indicate that they're just discontent with anything related to what you say. Right, now the next thing to work out is this personal, or is this with all the people they meet? Or just with most? If it's personal, well, a simple solution is to give a greater distance between you and them and don't talk to them so often. And listen rather than speak, because speaking is always an aggro to them, or at least ignites some negative response. So you're not in fellowship with such people. Now, this hasn't achieved a harmony, except that at least it tends to avoid a war, because you're going to start to minimize contact. which does minimize the flare-ups. However, if they still feel they are putting up with you in their world, tensions may rise, and you would like to know, well, is there anything I can do that will avoid such? And the best way of avoiding such is that you both come into an understanding of each other, an empathy and a sympathy. So you need to understand why, what the cause is of this underlying antagonism that you seem to be detecting. Now, this situation is only, of course, if the garden itself isn't actually the problem. And one puts that right, but there's still a problem. They're still very negative on all other issues as well. It's not just the garden. So if it's on a whole variety of fronts, then you get the impression there's an inharmony between us. That inharmony is the fact that we're not truly empathizing with each other and understanding each other's view and how they're seeing it and why. So we need to get to that. So you show empathy for them. You try and find out what is it that they're feeling and what is it that they feel is the cause. And what would they ideally want to put it right? Because actually, they don't want to suffer from being antagonistic. They would like to live in a world of perfect harmony. It's just that it doesn't seem to be available to them. What are they needing? What are they feeling, needing, and asking for? And the more you attend to and listen to how they are, the more they will feel you are a friend. Because most people don't listen to them. They just take them as being negative in such circumstances and walk away. If you are a friend to them, they don't want to lose it lightly. So they're trying to meet your needs as much as you're trying to meet theirs. You have a good foundation to solve your dilemma. You can start to build a better relationship simply by empathy. If you can't pull this off, then the solution is to pull away from each other so that at least the problem is less pressing on both of you. And you may find there's a sort of safe distance at which you can have some interaction, but not clash. So a safe distance is where the interaction you do have is cooperative. Like, for instance, you go into the shop, you give them the money, they give you the goods, it's understood that, good morning, lovely, nice to see you, thank you very much, and off you go. And that's a good enough relationship for the shop owner to most of his customers. And that can go on indefinitely and a great blessing to both. You buy what you want, he earns a living. You're not close, but you are meeting each other's needs to the extent that you can. Thank you, Dad. Look, it may look like a panacea, but it's not going to solve all situations. You're in a world of good and evil. Some people you come across may just hate you. I mean, they've had an upbringing that has brought them up to hate this group of people. Or, they despise Poms, the British. The British are just seen as arrogant imperialists, pompous, absurd, despised. I don't think you're going to change that overnight by a bit of empathy. No matter how, they've got to come to some fundamental change in themselves that doesn't seek to dismiss people according to categorization and so on. I don't think you're going to achieve that in, you've got better things to do and more pressing things to worry about, and your time is scarce. So you avoid such people. You don't want to be up their nose. You don't want to be exposed to the behavior that they're likely to give you. So you avoid them. You move on. You flee from this city into the next. In the Jesus story, you shall not have gone over all these cities of Israel before the Lord come. In other words, I would always provide a way out, an alternative. And I might point out, if he doesn't, it's going to be a lesson that you hold for eternity, that you'll have nothing to do with such evil yourself. But you don't want to learn the hard way. And you can learn simply by love and understanding. And heavenly guidance of the Holy Spirit, rather than learn the hard way. So we try and listen to wisdom, and we try and find wisdom, and we sift it according to the Spirit within us. Thank you, Dad. He leads us in the paths of righteousness. We are sanctified by thy truth. We know what we have believed, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which we've delivered unto him against that day, which is our love and devotion because of our gratitude, because we have tasted and seen that the Lord, our Dad, is good. Love you, Dad. So there will be some people it's simply economic and more reasonable just to avoid their company, minimize contact, and such contact as you still have to have, well, accept it gracefully as of God, to remind you that you want nothing to do with evil. Sure, you would like to save and rescue them, but God has that in hand. It doesn't require you to suffer to achieve it. I am not asking my children to do the work. That's my job. I'm bringing up the family, not them. They can help me, well, that's lovely, but not if it's going to cost them. I do not use my children in that way. Quite simply, I do not crucify my son in order to save the rest. I don't need to. I am all-powerful and I'm all-loving, so there's no way I'm going to do that. So why did Jesus choose to be crucified then? To tell you, I love you. If you suffer, I suffer because I love you. I'm not wanting you to suffer alone. If you do suffer, I've come to suffer with you. Because I'm your dad. I love you. So the Christian story has it that Jesus is God incarnate, suffering for us, paying the price, the sacrifice. Well, that's something of parenthood, isn't it? But when we consider that someone we love has been crucified for us, oh my God, I didn't want that to happen. I wish to God that this is not so, that it did not happen. And I'm very glad in that respect that I find it's a story, not a history at all. There's not a shred of reliable, decent evidence that says any of this story is history. It's a complete fabrication of all the ancient wisdom that has ever been said and gone before for thousands of years, and it's all documented to prove it. It's a story, and it's a very good one. And it's not what Christianity has made of it. You need to go back to the story again. You have a look at those words in red print in your, well, preferably King James Bible. But whatever Bible you can find, you can read. Yeah. Thank you, Dad. And that's where I started. I realized I don't like this Christian story. Why would I beat up one son to pay the debts of the others? I don't treat my kids that way. How much more, my God? This story can't be true. It has to be a story. Why have they bothered to write it? What have they written? Oh, well, it's not that anyway. Or at least, it's rather confusing as to what we're to make of it. What is there in this story that I wish to salvage? And so I found the way out, and it was the path of wisdom. Wow. Where did this wisdom come from? I don't know. But I do know I was obsessed with understanding the truth. Where did that come from? I don't know. It must have been the gift of God. Why should I have it and other people apparently not in large measure? I don't know. But I do know that wisdom didn't get me there alone. Wisdom was very useful once I trusted in God, wanted to trust, knew I wanted to trust. But wisdom didn't give me the answer when I didn't want to trust. The world had to give me a situation where I wanted to trust. And it wasn't through great loss, but rather through great gain. I was happy, and yet in love, with someone, person, and was happy because I'd surrendered her to someone else in my mind, because she loved him, not me. And I was pleased with myself that I knew the meaning of love for real, not to own and imprison, but to give freedom and life to, as they wanted in their heart, because that's what they therefore needed, what was in their heart. And that's what you need. And you cannot love a God that doesn't give you what is in your heart, the needs. He will show you by and by if you misunderstand your true needs. Trust him for it. It's part of your view of your God. And you will come through, just like Marshall. You come to know God much better in the fullness of time. And it's not that you have to work at it. You're driven by it because you love your God with all your heart, soul, mind and strength, of course, because he personifies what you truly need. How could you not love him? So you are driven, you're not working. You're using your freedom in what you love doing. Seeking God, your God. And then wisdom comes to your aid instead of your enemy. Instead of proving why God does not exist, you now see everywhere God existing. And you say, yeah, but it's only by faith. Better than faith in belief in him not existing. That's only by faith as well. And a very destructive faith too. You don't believe me if you haven't yet tasted of also the experience of trusting him. Try it and see. Oh, I can't, I don't have the will and the, okay. Whatsoever you appreciate in life, draw yourself to that. Worship your God and learn accordingly. But be very sensitive. Some lessons are torturously hard to learn, and you don't want to go down that path. So be attentive. Look for good advice. Consider it, shift it, sift it. But whatsoever is good and lovely, think on these things, and you'll come to know God. Because you'll be filled with joy and hope and peace. Because you attend to that which is good as you understand it. And the joy and the gratitude will carry you into the arms of your God. And he will show you the way to understand him better. No problem. Bless you. Thank you, Dad.